Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cyber Voices, the official podcast of the Australian Information Security Association, otherwise known as AISA. I'm your host, as always, David Willett, and it is my pleasure to have you with us as we explore the diverse voices of the Australian cyber industry. This special edition of Cyber Voices was recorded at CyberCon 2024 and is part of our series from the conference highlighting some of the thought leaders that came together to make CyberCon so special. Before we begin today's episode, just a quick reminder that CyberCon Canberra is nearly upon us. This is your opportunity to network with Australia's most influential politicians, policymakers, and business leaders in the Australian cyber industry. Also known as the Australian Cyber Conference, CyberCon Canberra takes place on the 17th to the 19th of March 2025 and sets the direction for our cyber community. Attracting over 100 leading cyber speakers and more than 1,000 delegates, this is the perfect opportunity for your team or business to be at the forefront of cybersecurity matters in Australia right now. We have some incredible keynote speakers lined up as well, including World War II Bletchley Park code-breaking saviour, Professor Sue Black of Durham University, who'll be talking about that campaign and women in cyber. Also, don't miss futurist Dr. Jordan Nguyen, who will be bringing his AI loneliness companion robot along for its first public outing. Join these two leading minds along with many others who will set the direction for Australia's cyber industry this year. Don't delay. Register to attend today at cyberconference.com.au or contact our National Events and Sponsorship Manager, Susanna Palermo, by emailing sponsorship@aisa.org.au to make sure you get the best exposure for your company. All the links are in the show notes. Now, on with Cyber Voices. Welcome back, everyone, to Cyber Voices, coming to you again live from CyberCon 2024. Well, not so live. You're probably listening to this week's after the conference, but that's fine. I am joined today, and I promised I was going to do this to her, by my co-host, the award-winning Emily Wingard.
Oh, gosh.
Emily, how are you?
I'm wonderful, and it's great to be here.
What was that little award you won at the awards dinner last night?
Just the outstanding contribution to AISA.
Just the outstanding contribution. The second last award handed out, I'll add. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So well deserved.
Very excited to receive it.
And we are joined today by the fabulous Bec and Benji. Sorry, Bec?
Yeah,
Bec. Bec's fine. Yeah,
I prefer
cool.
Bec. Thanks.
I had Bec, but your name tag I think said Rebecca.
It does.
So,
They didn't. They refused to shorten it for some reason.
From Phriendly Phishing, welcome.
That's it. Thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
You.
How is CyberCon treating you?
Oh, beautifully. It's been a lot the last day and a half. You kind of lose time a little bit being here because there's so much to do and to see and people to talk to. But it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's always great getting to see the fresh faces that we recognize from LinkedIn and some of our clients as well. So it's been really lovely to kind of get amongst it.
And what has been your best bit so far?
Ooh, it's a good question. I've attended a few talks on cognitive biases. That's generally like my wheelhouse of interest with regards to like the scams and cyber stuff. So that's been really engaging. And
I'm not allowed to say lunch. I mean, the food's great, but it is. No, look, the opening keynote from Joe Sullivan was really good. It was really good to see the insight behind, I think he was like the first CSO to ever be prosecuted for a data breach. So that was really interesting seeing that broken down. And he's such a affable guy. He was really easy to listen to. So that was really good.
Humble brag, but we did get Joe in here after his keynote yesterday.
He sat in this chair.
He did, actually. In fact, that very one. Yeah. Really, really great guy, though. Super easy to talk to and some really interesting stories about his humanitarian work as well. Which
I
really
love that about him. I love that he's now taking like a corporate break and he's doing that kind of stuff. It's good to give back.
And as I understand it, we're getting you fresh from your own talk. You've literally just come down from upstairs.
We ran.
Yeah.
Yep.
We ran,
here as soon as we could.
How'd you go? Did you pack the house out to get a big room?
We actually had people standing up the back, which I was,
That's cool.
I was very happy with. That's always something that, you said at the back of your head, kind of like, oh, I hope I'm not doing this to my manager and her
you
friend.
think, it's just going to be my colleagues and my friends from like uni and things like that. But no, those were the first people there, but then it filled up and it was like, you know what, that just kind of takes the nervousness away for me, at least.
It's reassuring to know that you've obviously got something that is of interest that people want to hear about. The doors fling open and all those people come piling in.
Yeah. They came in early too, so we were still there kind of stuffing around with our slides.
Make sure the slides are working.
We're like, is it the correct prezzo? And people were coming in, it was like, oh, now we have to awkwardly kind of stand here and communicate telepathically as to like when we're going to start and how we're going to start and things like that. So, but it all worked out.
Yeah. And Bec, it's not your first time talking at CyberCon?
No. Last year was my first time.
Yeah.
I did a program called Women Speak Cyber.
Can you share a little bit with us about that talk?
Yeah. So last year this year our talk was about stranger danger.
Mm-hmm.
Last year was sort of a similar topic, but not quite. And it was talking about human-centered scamming through things like pretexting and catfishing.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked a lot about, romance scams and investment scams and things like that. And basically how, online communications can sort of be the start of that kind of thing. And I kept it very high level because it was my first time speaking here. And I really wasn't sure what the audience was going to be like because I'd only ever attended here as a guest before at the hospitality events, no less. So I didn't really have much of a sense of what was going on. But it went really well, and it sort of gave me a taste for continuing my public speaking career in cyber because also at that point, I'd only been working in cyber for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and Benji, what about, is this your first time talking?
This is in fact my first time at CyberCon. It's my first time attending, the first time speaking. So it was a great opportunity to actually get to put some of the work that I've been doing for the last couple of years into production. So yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
And I believe your talk, so you mentioned stranger danger. I think I saw the tagline was, it's about identity, using you against you. Tell us a bit about that.
So we really focus a lot on the profiling aspect of the scams and social engineering, doing a lot of research and reconnaissance and how that relates to a lot of the generative AI technologies and how they can be positioned to persuade people. So using things like your social media presence to create phishing emails all the way up to professional deepfakes or live deepfakes over Zoom. So the, thought that we wanted to get across was really that while generated material, whether it be text, voice, or, a video like live deepfake, while these things are increasingly sophisticated, the impact that they can cause from a simple text message by those that may ignore the warning signs of a text message can be as impactful as a deepfake.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about your perception dealing with these scams and how they manipulate you. So we really tie the amount of effort required to generate your likeness to how much information is readily available about you and how that can be used not only against you, but to, leverage your trusted identity against others that trust you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and we used a bit of an analogy to describe that as well, just in case, because there's a bit of back and forth on how that escalation happens. So we used an analogy of heat, a bit of spice. So chili, some people's perception of chili is like way overboard and they freak out at the tiniest amount. And then others can just eat it in bucket loads.
The through line we were using is scammers are like chilies. Chilies actually don't contain any real heat. It's the chemical capsaicin that tricks your perceptors into feeling heat. And so scams do the same thing. They manipulate the environment and the situation to you believing that you're dealing with someone that's trusted, a figure of authority, someone that is there to help you. So,
or urgency, like they might put the pressure on you.
Yeah. And what kind of impacts, you talk about impacts, can you delve into that a little bit more and what kind of things are you seeing?
We actually covered in the presentation quite a few examples of not only technical individuals that have been, we like to use the term got, anyone can really get got in this age of impersonation. And the thing that we pointed out is things like LastPass engineers loading malware on their home PCs, things like the Fortune 500 companies losing stock value because of tweets that were not actually legitimate or, doctored videos of the Pentagon being attacked and things like that. We kind of use those to highlight the fact that these scams are really increasing in sophistication, but the impacts can be both personal but also organizational. The thing that we like to end on is there's a deepfake scam that occurred with the CEO of Ferrari or should I say attempted scam, where they went through the process of inviting him to a Zoom meeting, sending out a phishing email, all of that. He got into the meeting and was convinced that he was dealing with an employee. But upon the actual request to transfer the funds, he said, wait a moment, I need to verify you. What was the book you recommended to me last week? So it was like a purely human question.
And right off the cuff too. Yeah. So not a preconceived safe word, if you will. It was just a very human, remember that conversation we had.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the technical controls in that instance weren't sufficient to limit that impact, but him asking a simple human question completely exposed the whole thing. And from the scammer's perspective, I mean, that's a lot of effort to clone someone's voice, research their likeness, create a video that's also
set up a
live.
website and,
register
any
the
of
domain.
Any of those extra little pieces of communication leading up to it too.
So that reconnaissance profiling stage can directly impact how believable the end scam is. But to tie that chili analogy is generate piece of text could be as devastating as a live deepfake for another person, because that mild temperature could be perceived as something on fire for someone else. So the impacts are vary greatly, but it's about how you, I guess, mitigate them.
And we're really sort of on the precipice here of just how wide and deep these kind of threats are going to go, because I don't think anyone is really going to think that the next Teams call you're going to get, Emily, is going to be a deep fake, but we are starting to see it happen, like in that example you just used. Are you, in your talks and your messaging, are you trying to help people understand a little bit about just how much information they're putting out there and how they can be used against them?
Yeah, and that's basically it, because a lot of traditional talks or articles you might see about that kind of technology is about how to spot it.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be looking at, look at the eye line, look at the textures, look at how fast they move, things like that. And that's all very well and good for right now. But tomorrow, the next day, or already, we don't know. The barrier for entry to that kind of technology is getting better and better. Cheaper and cheaper. And the technology itself is getting better and better. So we can't rely on those kind of checks. What we do have to do now is just say, look, you need to human verify every interaction that has a dollar amount attached to it.
Yeah.
But not only that, what are you putting out there? I mean, in the days of Facebook and Twitter's infancy, people were live tweeting their day, photos of everything. And some people still do it. We've got TikTok and Snapchat. Those are things that the younger generations are still on all day long and putting up the most intimate parts of themselves, both information-wise, visually, things like that. And this is all information that can just be squirreled away and used against them at some point, or used against one of their family members or a loved one even.
I think for me, it's definitely as well the media that you're putting out. So, you can put out live tweets all day, and that's really only as useful as the pretexting idea of who the person is to a scammer. But if you're putting out multiple videos a week and putting out a podcast where your voice is easily clonable, those things, I guess, make it a lot easier for someone to use you against you, or use you against someone that trusts you. So,
we're all prime, not targets, but we're prime vectors at the moment, because our voices are out there.
Yep.
You might have a podcast voice that's slightly different to your everyday voice. I know I slightly tweak it a bit. So if they were going to be cloning this version of my voice, it might not be the same thing. But there's plenty of video out there where, you might be getting interviewed, or, just, you're out with your friends and you're just having fun and someone videos the whole situation. I mean, these are all little snippets that can be used to generate something.
And it doesn't take much.
It's kind of more just tempering what you're putting out there. Okay. Stopping it is, it's like a bucket with a hole in it that you're filling with water. You're going to, every single point you get to where you think you've sealed it, it's just going to overflow again and leak. I mean, the technology is moving too fast for that. So telling people that they can do this, this, and this to stop it is just useless at the end of the day, which sucks, because we like very definitive fixes. Most people just want a one and done, or they want, tell me exactly what to do, I'll do it. Then I don't have to think about it ever again. But sadly, with this kind of threat, you have to continuously think about it. But that's not to say to be super paranoid. There's a balance.
I often employ the thinking, adversarial thinking in these kind of contexts, where if I'm questioning, should I put up this video? The first thing I'll ask myself is, if someone else wanted to use the content of this video against me, or against someone that trusts me, how could they do it? And if I already have a couple of steps in mind that's how I would do it, it's probably not something I want to be putting online just because of that. With scammers, really the only thing that separates someone doing the scam and someone not is that whole, should I do that thing? It's the intent now, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really nerf the entire planet's intent of using that stuff against you. But what you can do is be more conscious of the ways in which it can be leveraged, how those tools create what they do. So a lot of the time with the awareness training stuff, when it comes to this AI material, is literally showing the process of, this is what I started with, this is what came out. That base level understanding of where we're at and what's capable opens people's understanding to where the next levels will kind of be. If using the hi mom scam as an example, now everyone kind of has a bit of a reservation to immediately engaging with random numbers. It's similar with a cloned voice. If I showed you the process of cloning your voice on the spot, you may be less inclined to engage with people. Should that come up? Is this sounds a little awkward. Can you verify? Can you tell me the book you recommended to me last week?
Yeah, of course.
And then suddenly the whole thing is a lot more obvious that this is a manipulation taking place.
One of the great questions we were asked after our session, an audience member asked, what about when I think I'm expecting a call back, from my bank or from the ATO, and, you pick up and go, hello, Bec speaking, and they go, oh, hi, Bec, I'm just calling from your bank. I just need you to verify your date of birth, the last 4 digits of your phone number, and the place of birth that we have on record. And you just think, well, I did call my bank yesterday, or I did do this thing yesterday that I was frustrated I didn't get through to. And my answer to that was just hang up, even if you're... I actually just refuse. I think, no, I'd rather sit through the hold process again than say that to someone who's called me on a number that they have and then ask me who I am. Come on. It's, there's a bit of a disconnect there. So
security is not always the quickest thing, but it is the most secure thing. Sometimes those things will take a lot more time, but they are the best way to go about it. Similarly to that point of the bank, though, they also have verification methods where they want to verify who you are when speaking to them. You can employ those same verification methods. Before I provide that information, can you send me a text message to my phone number or call them back on another number? So it's, I guess the idea of security is more on the individual to be skeptical of everyone they deal with without that kind of ever-present paranoia. A healthy level of skepticism around individuals online. I think people have a propensity to trust people online more than people in person they interact with that are strangers. And a lot of the time it comes down to service roles and people that you end up calling at banks or what have you. But being skeptical of who you're speaking to and what information they're asking and why is something that I think everyone can really benefit from, bringing back stranger danger.
I think also we have to realize that convenience doesn't mean it's better. Like we're so used to the convenience of solving a problem online these days. Like I'm guilty of that too. If I come up against any difficulties in my life, I'll start Googling it to figure out the answer, and then you go down a rabbit hole and you find all this information. And that's when misinformation can sort of mess with your head as well, right?
Diagnosing yourself on Google.
Yeah, exactly.
We've all done it, right?
And everyone now is a narcissist these days, remember? So that's why everyone's posting online, but now everyone's also a psychologist and diagnosing that and so on and so forth. So this convenience we have with using social media online, solving problems, paying bills, we expect to be able to solve that problem digitally. So we don't think twice when we're asked to do something like that.
Absolutely. I've had examples of family member got you need to renew your payment details with Netflix text. And they were like, oh, I actually just changed my credit card. So they thought it must be real. And they did it. And within about half an hour, it'd been added to a Samsung Pay and they'd gone on a spending spree.
Yeah. Doesn't take long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the other thing that scammers will often do is when these convenient routes show up, such as during the pandemic, we saw a lot of QR codes pop up everywhere now. They're this ubiquitous part of society, right? That was one of the early attack vectors where scammers would put fake QR codes directing them to malicious websites over existing QR codes. So using that social proof, using the fact that something's convenient and gets me to the action I want quicker than me typing in a website and doing the thing. So that desire for convenience can be leveraged against you as well.
Mhm.
It's all about, in using the chili analogy, they're very much like chefs. They'll balance the levels of heat and based on the type of information that they'll be able to uncover about you to make that thing more believable and kind of less, more hit home more.
Yeah, especially here in Melbourne, like when the first days of going out again, you had no choice but to use a QR code. So, you were sort of a sitting duck for people that had that took that opportunity to start scamming immediately.
We all start to trust it and then it gets used against us, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I still have friends who are like, not another QR code, because a lot of places still persist in using them. And, it can be convenient if you.
At the pub, it's great.
Yeah, it can be really good because you can just get table service where there was no table service before. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not reading a menu on my phone. Give me a piece of paper.
Always give that thing a scratch before you scan it, though, at the bars.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And you do also, you mentioned the thing about the paper menu. Well, I've been guilty of this where I've judged a family at a table for all being on my phones and my partner's gone, they're just reading the menu. Now, tell me, you've also got your own podcast. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we're very fortunate to be given a platform at Phriendly Phishing to speak to industry experts about their various parts of cyber. Bec and I have been at Phriendly Phishing for about 2 years now. About 2 years, both of us. Yeah. And we've both kind of come into the industry with different interests, but then also kind of like crossover interest, OSINT, generative AI stuff. A lot of
but also just curiosity. We're sponges for information. If we meet someone that knows more than us, it's like, come here. Come here a sec while we interrogate you.
Put this microphone in front of your face. It's similar to what we've just done to you right now. How weird.
So, Bec and I's conversations would often be like sending links and saying, have you seen this? Oh, yeah, that makes me think of this. Oh, yeah, what about this? And so we kind of thought, well, a lot of this is for no one. Let's see if we can make that useful for people. So we've kind of taken a similar take of bringing back stranger danger. We really try to take that curious lens when speaking with deep domain experts on how that part of cyber can also kind of relate to scams more broadly. So things like digital incident, DFIR, digital forensics incident response, ransomware. We've spoken to a number of highly esteemed people within cyber just about their particular area. And it really paints like a broad picture of how all-encompassing cyber is, but also how kind of separate and delineated each practice can become.
And also, I think something that sets our podcast apart from a few others, there's a lot of cyber podcasts out there. We don't claim to be deep domain experts on any of that. We are basically there going, we are in awe of what you know and what you've done. Please tell us more. And we actually learn a lot live on the spot while we're doing that. And that's super valuable to us, but we're also putting out their content as well. So it's like,
it's great.
It's just like we're getting everything out of it. It's fantastic.
It's been really, really fantastic. I mean, even in the chat that we just gave for the session that we just had, we referenced Alistair McGibbon, who, is a known quantity in cyber. When we interviewed him about the ransomware and cyber extortion more broadly, he actually used the analogy of scammers being very pragmatic and being they're obsessed with the lowest calorie burn for the highest reward. And we ended up using that in the presentation because I think it's a really salient way to convey that information to people that also might not necessarily be the most technical in cyber as well.
And also the fact that most scammers run it like a business. It's not the dark hoodie in the basement. It's not the, there's a lot of analogies there for different scams that have come and gone in the past, but they're actually businesses now. I mean, he even mentioned that some of them would probably have an HR department and proper pay scales and things like that. And they might not even know that they're committing crimes. It's just a job to them. But the difference is, they're not paying taxes and they're stealing money from you. You're not getting anything out of it yourself. So
some have referral bonuses as well, which is just wild to think of from a criminal entity.
Yeah.
Especially with this software as a service kind of level of ransomware and things like that. It's just easier than ever to become a cyber criminal.
It is indeed. So the podcast is called Bytes.
Bytes with Bec and Benji. We do kind of colloquially just refer to it as Bytes.
Very catchy.
Yeah,
Very
thank
catchy.
you.
Yep, BBB.
We'll make sure we chuck a link in the episode notes.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well done on the talk and for sharing it here with us as well. And enjoy the rest of the conference. And thank you so much for sharing your voices with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thank you.
Always ask yourself, is it a chili?
Well, hello there, fellow podcasters. Are you looking to level up your podcast game? Well, let me tell you about This Is a Studio. This is a Studio is where we record cyber voices each and every single week. They're located at 693 High Street in Pran and Ikla Hawthorne East. They're Melbourne's go-to video podcast studio. Whether you're starting a podcast or taking your podcast to the next level, they've got everything you need, quality equipment, a professional setup, and a team that lives and breathes podcasts. And if you're like us and thinking about going live, these are the folks behind the scenes at events like the AFL Grand Final, Equitina Melbourne 2024, and of course, here at CyberCon 2024 as well. Seriously, these guys really know their stuff. So, if you're ready to make your podcast shine, check them out at thisisastudio.com.au. This is a studio where Melbourne's best podcasts come to life. Thank you for listening to another episode of Cyber Voices. Our music is by Sanar Garut, our show artwork is by Studio Quarantine, and we record our show at This Is a Studio in Pran, Melbourne, part of Popplant Productions. Please make sure you follow the show on your podcast platform of choice and leave us a 5-star review. This will help others find the show. Also, please follow the association on LinkedIn and Instagram. If you want to add your voice to our ever-growing chorus of diverse cyber voices, have questions, feedback, or would like to be a sponsor, you can do so by emailing us at cybervoices@aisa.org.au. That's cybervoices@aisa.org.au. Are you an AISA member? If not, you should consider joining our network of over 12,000 members across Australia. An AISA membership can open doors, build professional networks, create lifetime friendships, and offer exclusive training, events, and other perks. Become a member today by heading to our website at aisa.org.au. That is all for today. I hope you will join us again next time on Cyber Voices.